All right,
Oh, wow.
joining us again on the program, decorated 37-year Army veteran and global authority on leadership, disaster management, and climate preparedness. Welcome back to the program, retired General Russel Honore. Good to see you, good brother.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Barbara Russell,
Good morning, team. How we doing in D.C. today?
Oh, man.
The heat is up here, brother.
Yeah.
But and we've had a little bit of water over the last couple of weeks. Could have used your help a little bit. They've handled it okay, but nothing like Texas, man. We've seen you've been all active in social media and talking a lot about disaster preparedness. First of all, thank you for continuing to serve. Clearly, you can't spell retire, so which is fine, I understand. But you've had some serious thoughts and concerns about what we've seen over the last month or so, maybe a little bit more in terms of disaster preparedness. And you mind leading us through some of what you've been thinking over the last few weeks, General?
Yeah, well, number one, Mother Nature is coming out, not joking. I mean, she's throwing it all at us. Fires, floods, you name it, is happening. Tsunamis, earthquakes. She ain't playing this year.
Yes,
and
sir.
we've got to be prepared. And you may not be ready, but you got to get ready. And what we saw unfold in Texas was extreme weather event. It was predicted. Officials were informed. There's some degradation in the National Weather Service, as you know. But I think in this case, they had enough information to take the right action because the communities that did respond to the alert did the evacuation. So my heart goes out to those people where all those young people died, particularly children, 9, 10 years old, that totally dependent on adult leadership. And the government failed them. The local government failed them by not getting and they failed them in the development of that property because I don't know if you saw this, but FEMA had declared that area a flood zone. And
Yes.
some politician got involved and said, oh, no, you need to move that map. And it was at the stone's throw of the river.
Yes,
it didn't make sense. It should have been declared a flood zone and it wasn't. So it's unfortunate. A lot of people lost their lives that shouldn't have. But remind us, on any given day, Mother Nature can break anything built by man, and we got to be prepared.
Absolutely. General, I'm glad you raised that because, of course, even with all your years of service and prominence in military valences and beyond, you came to national and international visibility in the wake of course, Katrina. And of course, we talked about this last time you were here, and I'm sure, we can get on your schedule. I know you're going to be busy as hell in the next couple of months because we're right now entering that corridor for the 20th anniversary, of course, of what happened. As you face that tragedy, that disaster, in terms of preparedness, you know better than we do as a native Louisianian and, of course, dealing there in New Orleans, that it's like New Orleans sits below sea level. It probably shouldn't have been built there, but they needed to build it there to get us shipped into that region for our captivity. The New York Times ran a front page article about that floodplain, and they showed all that red where they should never have built in that region. What should we be thinking about in terms of everything from construction to uninsurable areas? Should you have a message for those who city planners and folks in terms of where we should be building and not building to maybe try to prevent or avoid some of this stuff?
Well, historically, we got an issue because a lot of our people ended up in the low ground.
Yes, sir.
You know that, across the track. Many times that you go in there, and then they call it the bottom. There's the city in the south. We don't have across the track or the bottom because it was the land that our folks got pushed to. So by just the way it was at the time, we ended up in more in flood zones and in floodplains than we should have. That being said, you ought to know if you're in a flood zone. I tell folks all the time, Lamont, when I go around the country talking about disaster preparedness, if you're going out to buy a house, you need to check the elevation. Don't fall in love with that house until you find out if it's in a flood zone or not. Because if it's in the flood zone and you get that mortgage, you're going to have to buy that insurance.
Wow.
And that could be half as much as your monthly mortgage because insurance is high.
Wow.
And it's across the country because of the major events we've had. But you check the elevation of that house, then you go check the elevation of the nearest state highway or railroad. If they are higher than the front of your house, if we get heavy rains, your house gonna flood.
Wow. Well, that's a good rule of thumb. So if you're seeing the highway, if the highway is higher than your house, this is a problem. Is that what you're saying?
You're gonna flood. Wow. That highway is like a levee.
Interesting.
The other piece, Lamont, is
interesting.
If you go buy a house on Bayou Road or River Road,
they done told you what it is.
Road,
got it.
Your AZZ is gonna flood, cuz.
Yeah.
You gonna flood.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to live out there and skip rocks in the morning off your back porch, you're a potential flood zone.
So with these, Texas specifically, right, we've seen flooding before. We've seen hard rain. We've seen flash floods in flood zones. What was so dramatically different about what happened in this part of Texas?
Well, because it was the 4th of July, we had more people come to the zone because it's a popular area. I lived in the hill country at what was, and I guess is Fort Hood again, Fort Cavazos.
Oh, yeah,
Fort Hood.
Fort Hood, yeah. Shout out to
was there for
Texas,
2 years in the hill country.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed going out and seeing the flowers and just enjoying that country. But in the hill country, when it rained, guess where the water going?
Down here.
It's coming off those hills and it's concentrated in those flash forward creeks like the Lampasas and the Guadalupe. And it's just one big floodplain in between those hills. And it was a weekend where we probably had 3 times the normal people that would be in that flood zone. Number one, it's camping season for the kids. In Texas, them people go crazy. They send them kids off to camp. Get out of here. Go spend some time in nature. And there are 4 or 5 of them camps in that area, as you watched on the news. Then you had the 4th of July weekend, all the people that would come there. So that was one big thing. Normally, if this had happened in early February, we would have a hell of a lot less people there to be here. So that changed. The other thing is we've got these atmospheric rivers moving through. We saw one hit in Texas. That's what the Weather Service said, hey, you're going to get, and they thought it was going to be 6 inches. They got 10 inches, which can happen. You don't see that every now and then in D.C., and it overmatched the system. In this case, the difference and the other difference is the backup to Texas, FEMA wasn't working. By direction of the Department of Homeland Security, they didn't pre-deploy the search and rescue teams as they normally would. The number one rule of disaster response is preparedness, and FEMA wasn't prepared. They did move 2 helicopters up, Coast Guard helicopters up from Corpus Christi, but they're always on 24/7 watch, the Coast Guard. That's what they do. So they were able to get in there, but the response team weren't approved to go in Lamont until Monday, 72 hours after the flood.
And that was because Kristi Noem has said anything spent over $100,000 got to meet her personal signature, and as a result, all those consultants were dropped. Was that? Well, talk to us about that. Yes, sir. You nailed it. The other thing is the call center failed on Sunday because she didn't renew the contract. She took the weekend off. My God. She went to Texas, came back, went and worked on her makeup, and and failed again.
And matter of fact, the Mexican team beat the FEMA teams in there.
Yeah, could you walk us through that? That was something I found interesting. Claudia Sheinbaum, president of Mexico, deployed their folks to come across the border. Now, a lot of people might say, well, wait a minute, I thought y'all trying to build a wall and seal off the border. Is that unusual for other countries, in this case Mexico, to intervene on behalf of the United States? Is that something you saw over the arc of your career?
No, in spite of what these folks up here in Washington said, there's a lot of cross-border collaboration between those border counties and Mexico. And in the good counties, they have to collaborate, and you'll see a lot of the emergency services going back and forth through mutual aid and mutual agreement. That's the only way to survive along that border, in spite of what you see people on some of the media trying to portray. That is a kind of normal operation between first responders on both sides of the border.
That's a very powerful thing, though, to think about that. And like you said, the politics, the theater, but when it comes down to human beings helping human beings, that's a common practice. That's very powerful. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so staying right there, though, you see people coming out with the press conferences, and let's not make this political. How, with the cuts and the back and forth, how is it not? How is it not?
Exactly. It when you tell America, hey, we're gonna destroy FEMA. Oh, really? I still got a claim out there from a storm of 2 years ago. I'm waiting to get paid on. I mean, it's literally been into something they had no idea what they're doing, and they've appointed a new director of FEMA. Seemed to be a nice guy, retired military Marine. But with no background in emergency management. And one of the things we came out of Katrina with, if you remember, Lamont, was in the future, Congress told the White House, always select somebody to lead FEMA that had emergency management experience. And this gentleman has served his country well, retired colonel from Marine Corps, but there's nothing in his portfolio that show he's actually trained to lead FEMA. And matter of fact, he didn't show up in Texas until nearly a week later.
How about that? General Honore, in vein of what Lamont just asked you and what you just walked us through in terms of this specific hire, people will say, this current federal administration, they're saying, well, you can move this to the states. It can move. Could you help us understand the relationship between the federal government and states when it comes to this kind of thing, and who shares what responsibility, and what does the federal government have to do that states simply cannot do?
Well, that's a bad idea from the start, that this can be shifted to the states. I mean, it's the reason why we created FEMA in the first place, because every state was out there soloing, trying to deal with various branches of the government. It's a good reason why we don't let every governor run their own FAE. Hello.
Okay.
Can you imagine that?
That makes sense.
Sir.
All right.
Can you imagine? Right. It just sounds crazy.
Now I get it.
Right.
It's a good reason we don't let every governor have their own Corps engineers.
My God.
We need standards and we need mutual aid. So when the governor of Texas called and said, I need helicopters, I need search and rescue, I need Corps engineers, I need capability, they make one call, and that's the FEMA. If you get rid of FEMA, number one, most states don't have the capacity to upfront the money that it takes to deal with a disaster, number one. Number two, they would be calling all these different agencies. Well, I guess today we'll call HUD. No, you call Corps engineers, you call the Coast Guard, you call the Army, and that will be total disaster. And right now, to destroy FEMA, we've got in the pipeline 10 declarations that have already been made, sitting in Washington on the president's desk for him to approve, for floods and fires that have happened in the last 8 to 10 months that have not been approved by the president.
Yes, sir.
For reimbursement.
Yes,
because
sir.
When the governors spend money, FEMA reimbursed them at a rate of normally 75%. But most states couldn't handle a disaster independently because it would be a redundant type of FEMA in every state. We don't have that kind of money. Even the Doge boys, those big balls, they wouldn't go along with that.
So you, I'm looking in an interview you had over the weekend. You said that the families will force legislative change after these floods. What type of policy changes do you foresee or hope for in the future as coming out of this?
What I see happening is this was going to end up in litigation.
Oh, wow.
Right now, everybody is holding up the mourning, the respect for life that was lost. But you know what's going to happen next, Lamont, right? The lawyers are there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This will be settled in court. They think they'll just solve this down in Texas in a council meeting and decide to put some sirens in and some alerts. But this is going to be accountability. You know who was lost in this flood? You know what I mean? Influential people.
Yeah.
This is going to end up in court.
So how?
And it will force the local folks to comply. And it's going to take a relook at all the liability people took and went into that flood zone that could have probably evacuated that didn't. There's going to be some serious court cases going on for years. The unfortunate thing is that if they don't find the remains of those people, it could be 3 to 5 years before they could file a claim.
My God. General, it seems like obviously we've been talking about this a lot over the last 7 or 8 months, but the country really does seem to be on the verge of, I won't say coming apart at the seams, but these forces are playing with fire. As you say, you talked about those 8 states that have filed for reimbursement. We saw Mike Johnson at the press conference a couple of days ago saying that he hadn't seen a request for aid for California, and then the reporter's like, yeah, they filed that in February in those fires in California. You talk about, obviously, folks going to file lawsuits, and this is going to work its way through the courts, and you can't just solve this with a special session where you put in a few more sirens or anything. As we enter this season of remembrance, like I said, we're about 6 weeks out from when Katrina hit in late August in Louisiana. Do you have any thoughts on what everybody listening and just regular folk in this country can do to push these politicians not to do what seems to be being done, which is playing politics with disaster relief? I mean, if California has had a request in since February and the money hasn't come, and now we're entering, and they claim they didn't even know what hurricane season was. We're not past anything. Right. What should we be doing at this point, General Honore?
Well, I think where we can take the most decisive action is participate in our local government to make sure our community is prepared, and then to get ourselves prepared. Because at the end of the day, you got to be prepared to be your own first responder.
Oh, wow.
But what's happening at the federal level and what's happening with California is a crying damn shame. But I mean, that $40 billion, that's going to have to go through a special appropriation. And I know why my homeboy Mike Johnson act like he don't know what the hell's going on. He's going to have to appropriate that money. There's no $40 billion laying on the ground. That has to go through a special appropriation, just like they did after Katrina, just like they did for Governor Westmore for his bridge. That's got to go through appropriation, special appropriation, or supplemental. And I think that's where the issue is. I don't think that's been through the Congress yet for approval.
No, it hasn't.
With that amount of money.
No, and he lied and said he hadn't seen it. It's like, come on, man, that was 6 months ago they asked for this money.
They're playing politics. Red state, yes. Blue state, no. You know how that work out. And what people can do, you got to get up next time and go vote. Take somebody with you, because we need some balance in the Congress. Right now, there's no balance.
Yes, sir.
No.
Now, you mentioned, Greg, hurricane season, right? So apparently right now, CNN is reporting that there's a tropical storm headed towards the Gulf Coast, and they're looking at level 3 or 4 risk in place today for South Central Louisiana, with a level 2 or 4 risk along the Gulf Coast from East Texas to West Florida Panhandle, including New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, and Gulfport, Mississippi. Heavy storms are expected. So with that knowledge and information, what could you give to those people listening now as a way to prepare for this weekend?
Well, I'm in New Orleans right now.
Okay.
I'm working here today. I'm not in Baton Rouge, and I arrived here early yesterday afternoon taking the weather into account. And I've watched the local governments. The mayor did a good press conference yesterday and told folks what was going on. They know they have a fragile pump station situation in New Orleans to pump the water out, because you literally got to pump it out when it rains here. And I looked at St. Charles Parish, they were cleaning. So I think local governments are doing the best they can to prepare, because there will be some isolated flooding and could be some substantial flooding if one of these clouds linger around and you get 10 inches of rain in a few hours. So all the local governments have been very straight up with people. Turn around, don't drown, stay home, work from home. I put a memo out to most of our folks on social media. You ought to not go out if it's flooding. You need to figure out an alternative solution. Because on the 12th of June, Lamont, didn't even make the news. 13 people died in San Antonio going to work on flooded streets. And it didn't make the news because the big bad bill was being discussed in Washington. Didn't make the news. 13 people killed in San Antonio. And you can imagine who they were, people trying to go to work.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I didn't know that. I definitely didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
It didn't make the news.
And
here we go, 13 June to 4th of July, 100-some people dead. So, I mean, Texas got a problem. You can't bum rush Mother Nature, Texas. You got to get prepared like everybody else. But I'm looking along the coast from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, and the local governments are doing the best they can with precautions, and the weather people to inform people as best they can to be prepared for the flooding. And those people that have flooded before, they can expect to flood this time, particularly those streets where they have to put their cars up on the median, Lamont.
Now, I have to ask you this. Now, there has been, I want to just see where you're going with it. So there has been some talk about weather manipulation, and not in the conspiracy theory type of weather manipulation, but just the cloud seeding aspect of taking care of farms and dry conditions in Texas. Can you speak to that? Do you have any knowledge of that, or whether that one exists, or two has anything to do with the recent flooding?
Number one, the technology exists. Number two, it did not have jack, what to do with what happened.
Okay.
That's another Margaret Taylor Greene myth. I mean, she chased myth. That's the one, she was chasing lasers at one time, right?
Sure.
How about that?
Sure.
So that's I'm going to believe the scientists. I don't think I'm going with MJ on that one.
Yes, sir.
Margaret Taylor Greene on that one.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you even answering.
They're pushing that all over, Lamont.
Yeah.
That's another conspiracy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, General Honore, we're always very happy to have you. And when you come next time, we can, and like I say, I know you're about to be real busy, and you're always busy, but especially now on this 20th anniversary coming up. Russel Honore, of course, retired Lieutenant General, just one of our key go-to people on so many topics, but in this case, disaster relief. We're glad to have you. It's about to be school time, so your honorary scholars getting ready to go back to Southern, man. Where we at with
Absolutely. That? They're in this summer program right now. We take care of them through the summer. The ones who want to go to summer class, they can stay in their dorms. So they're doing great. We're so proud of them, and the program is growing under Dr. Marquis Phillips at Southern New Orleans. And we're talking about starting another center down at Southern Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah, you got to do that.
As the resources flow, we're going to do that, and we're going to try to keep this thing moving. Well, but we're very proud of these young men.
Absolutely beautiful. And you want to check out more, of course, General Honore, 1e.com.com. Y'all keep up with General Honore, because you've been on that wall a long time for us, brother, and we deeply appreciate you.
Thank y'all, and get ready, DC. Watch that water. Make sure you know if you live in a flood zone or not. Don't get surprised.
Yeah, I got to find out.
Move off River Road.
Yeah, right, right, exactly. Lake Drive. Get out of there.
I saw them brothers up there in New Jersey and looked like they was surprised.
How about
Everybody
that?
know that Plainville is a flood zone. I mean, come on now.
Come on.
Plainville.
No, Plainville.
Yeah,
That is right
Plainfield,
there.
New Jersey.
Plainfield,
Yeah,
yes,
you're
sir.
right. Dang.
Thank you, General, man.
Appreciate you.
Always good to be with you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
God bless.
God bless you, brother.
You're listening to Urban View Mornings on Sirius XM Urban View. We'll be right back.